Hi, Ed.
Hello, Annette. It's a long time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. How is it? How do you say it in English? Long time no see, something like this?
Yeah, that's good English.
Yeah, and as I know you, I thought, okay, today I'll already join a little bit earlier because last time I joined really exactly at the time, and I thought, as far as I know, Ed normally he's already online before, and
Right.
some sound check and I don't know what.
Okay, I need to go get up from this chair for a minute and go across and get my water
Just,
bottle.
just take your time. I only wanted to show up early enough.
So, how is your business plan coming? Are you having fun working
Oh
working
yes,
hard? Yeah.
I'm having fun with everything I do, and yeah, at the same time, yeah. But it is always good to be busy, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes I overdo it, put things back to back because I think it's a good idea to keep the energy going. But you know what? It's really gets tiring.
Yeah, yeah,
And it doesn't matter how much you prep, media prep. It's comfort. And it's really necessary. Excuse me
yeah.
for a
What?
minute. I'm getting
Yes.
messages here. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so rest and not to do back-to-back shows, or back-to-back appointments. Um, Even if you're working remotely, it still is a huge amount of concentration and dedication to the purpose and to the person you're with, present with that one person, with you. So let me
I
ask you
completely.
about that card that's on your shelf behind you.
Oh, that's my book.
Oh, it's a book?
Yes.
What is the title of that? Der Peace Factor.
Exactly. And so one of my next goal is really to get it translated into English. And I really would love to publish it with Hay House. And so I've already attended a workshop with Hay House in London. Yeah, so that's one of my next projects.
Before you put it back there, bring it forward again. I'm going to push the button. I want the world to see this. And this is Ron Cooper, and this is
Hi.
Annette Louisa Dirk. Jernick.
Good morning, Aneta, or afternoon where you are. Good to
And
meet
we're
you.
on Global TV Talk Show from across borders and cultures. Annette is in Cologne or in Germany, Köln, right? Koln?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, great. Ron is in Washington, D.C. area, and I'm in Southern California today.
I used to be stationed at Ramstein Air Base from
Ah,
1981 to 1985. So we have 4 wonderful years and memories of being in Germany.
wonderful. Yeah, Ramstein isn't that far away from here. It's I think I would say about 40, 50 kilometers, something like this. Maybe a little
Great.
further.
Great.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So, Louisa, say hello to my friend and colleague Ali Shami.
Good
Hi,
morning,
Ali.
good
And
Great to meet
morning,
you.
good
and
afternoon, wherever you are. How's everybody doing?
good. Welcome again.
Hi.
The
Thank you.
Seattle is where you are, Everett, just north of Seattle.
Correct.
Yeah. So are you on the water or overlooking the
Yes,
water? Yeah, that's
yes.
nice. That's
I
great.
can't stay away from the water. I made a mistake. Well, not made a mistake. I grew up in Lebanon, and my dad had it, just at a house that is just right at the Mediterranean, and you look at the sunrise, the sunset. The problem with that is you just anywhere you go, you have to stay right next to the water. Otherwise, you feel like you're out of place.
That's
I love
great.
the water as well.
Yeah, every time I go to places that it's just like right in the middle of the country, it doesn't feel right. But
So Annette, are you located? Uh, excuse me, I have to get rid of this. Um, are you located near the Rhine?
Oh, not yeah. It depends on how you define near. So I think it's about 10 kilometers. I have some water about 500 meters from here. Only there it's a lake. Only that there are very high trees, so I can only imagine the lake. But in wintertime, when there are no leaves on the trees, then I can see the other side, or at least the lights over there. So yeah, that's my kind of water for at present. And yeah, I'm working on changing this to see directly on the water. May it be the Rhine, I don't know yet.
So Joanne and I did a cruise starting in Amsterdam and all the way down the Rhine to Basel.
Wow,
That was nice. Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, and hope to do that again. Let's welcome James Moss from New York. Actually, he's a Brit living in New York.
Hi, James. Great to meet you.
Hey, very nice to meet you too, and everyone else. Great.
Okay, let me do the intros here. We are recording. So from Germany is Annette Durinek, and she has written a book. Why don't you hold that book up one more time for the world to see? This is a public relations company here, so we help you. Okay, bring it a little bit closer to that camera. There we go. And Der Peace Factor, that means the peace factor?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that has to do with peace and love at work within teams.
Exactly. It's between a novel and also kind of self-help book. It's about a lady who is working in her company and she experiences situations that are not that nice. For example, the director sales, he isn't very nice to her, and the director of the purchasing department isn't either, because during Christmas party, he kind of got too close to her and he didn't want it, and now he's kind of yeah, yeah, not treating her in a nice way. And so I explain a lot of communication models and transaction analysis and how to resolve conflicts in this story, so that the reader can really read this book before going to sleep. It's not, let's say, difficult. It's really very easy to understand and to have hints what to do when they go to the company next morning to really resolve these situations. And as I've already mentioned, I really would love to have this in English as well. So Paul Falcone has already read it in German, and he has done a wonderful recension for my book online, because he's so excellent in German. Yes, and so I think it's always good to have some dreams to follow, and mine is to really have this book in English as well.
Well, that's a really great story, and I'm really happy to have been a factor in bringing you together with Paul. And I want you to meet our newest friend here, Carolina. Carolina, welcome
Hi,
again.
Carolina.
Thanks, Edwin. Hello, everybody. It's very
Yes.
nice to be here.
So Carolina is based in northern Brazil, right?
Yes, I am.
And tell us,
Balneario Camboriú.
yeah, and tell us a little bit about yourself, so everybody here can begin this rapport building today. And we have several more people who are scheduled to join us. So let's
Of
start now.
course. All right. So, everyone, it's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Carolina Gomez. I am located in Brazil, and I work with executives that want to improve their careers, learn English to get better job positions, and, accomplish their goals around the world. So, Edwin, is it okay if I share my presentation now, or?
No, you have to wait. Is that okay?
Oh.
Do you have time? Do you have a time constraint?
No. It's fine. It's fine. let me just tell you guys that I learned English when I went to live in the United States many years ago then. I didn't know a word of English before, so I went there. I went to live with American girls and I learned English, and it really was a time that changed for me in my life, the importance of communication, right? I understood how communicating, and it's not only about the language, but all the different nuances that language has to offer really connect us to people. So yeah, nowadays I help other professionals to become better in their communication. I'm so happy to be here with you today, a little nervous, but that's about it.
Okay, don't be nervous. Let's take a deep breath. James Moss is from the London area. And we've known each other about, I don't know how long, 20 years, maybe more. And he's hosted our London meetings and been involved for a long time. Member of the Global Press Club. Thank you. And together we've been doing a series of broadcasts called Curzon, which is the name of the company, Curzon Comments. And we talk about, well, James does most of the talking, but about property. And because he has many years of professional property business in London and has brought that into New York. Been living in Manhattan now, how long? It's more than 10.
Few
More than
years
10,
now.
yeah. 15,
Yeah.
20 years, almost 20.
Yeah, I've been in Manhattan. It's central, living here for probably about 3 years, but I've been in New York for 8 years or so.
Yeah.
And yeah, our Curzon Comments series has been really well received. It's more about banter. So a lot of sort of toing and froing going on, which is great. Yes, it's very much about property. It's very much about relocation as well. We do both. So we sort of have this rather interesting overlap, which sort of means for when we're acting for, tenants and assignees, we really know our way around. London, New York, and internationally. We do a fair bit of international work now.
Yeah, you've been in
Um,
Dubai.
Yeah, Dubai, and we're very tech orientated, particularly on mobile technology and apps and stuff like that. So Ed and I have a lot of fun. It's great dialogue, isn't it, Ed? And yeah, it's been about an occasion we meet up in New York or London or strange places like that, and have a glass of wine and a beer and really put the world to rights. So it's a
One
great,
moment,
really,
I
yeah.
have, I'm being attacked here by messages. So sorry. 1 second. I have to admit people here. Okay, there's a button. Okay, come in. Okay.
Good.
Okay, this is Stefan. Hello, Stefan.
Hello.
This is
Edwin,
Stefan.
thanks for making it possible.
This is Professor Stefan Remhoff from Munich. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Edwin. Pardon me, my apologies for the slight delay on my side, but here we go. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I'm trying to figure out how to keep this computer working. So it's
Okay.
really temperamental these days. I might have to buy a new one. But okay, so I want to make introductions. You have a time constraint. You have another meeting at the top of the hour, and
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
20 minutes past the hour now, we're going to have a special presentation by Isha Carroll, who's from
Mhm.
Oxford University in England, about
Excellent.
English, speaking English. And but she hasn't shown up yet, so I hope she comes.
Okay.
Okay,
So the only
so
one being late then, yeah.
so Mr. Stefan, Professor Stefan, you are with International University, and
Exactly.
you're
Yeah.
an expert as well in global mobility.
Exactly. Thank you, Edwin. Yeah, I try to, at least I try to connect both worlds. Yeah, from being kind of a hybrid human being between academia. So I do have a part-time professorship at International University in Munich or in Germany, but my home base is Munich, where I live and where I work. And well, I'm the managing partner and one of the founders of the People Mobility Alliance. So we do provide different services in the field of global mobility, ranging from consultancy, ranging from talks as you are providing, ranging from workshops and ranging from thought leadership and upskilling and reskilling activities. So I try to, let's say before, like combine both activities and try to build a bridge between academia and practical implications of global mobility. I think it's interesting to provide academia-based or academic-based fundament, research-based fundament on global mobility.
All right, thank you very
My
much for
life,
that.
yeah.
So I want you to meet Annette Dernick in Cologne, and Ali Shami is in Seattle, but was born in
Nice to meet
Beirut
you.
and lived there for many years. And James Moss is in Manhattan. He's has a relocation and real estate company online. The property's not online, but he
Okay.
is. Carolina is in Brazil, and she's an expert in helping business executives learn English.
Yes,
Yeah.
English and a little other things too.
Okay, that means getting along and building rapport and trust.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, we're going to circle back. Ron Cooper is in the Washington, D.C. area and is an executive trainer. Ron, why don't you self-intro a little bit better than I just did?
Thank you, Ed. It's good to be with each of you. The ones I haven't met yet. Ron Cooper, I am 22 years with the U.S. Air Force, flew F-4s at the time, and I specialize now in executive leadership training, culture as relates to relationships. And Annette and Carol, I believe that relates exactly to what you're saying, along with Stefan. It's all about culture, but also talk about team building and how we can get along together in spite of maybe international cultural differences. So it's great to be with you.
No, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Welcome, Isha Carroll from Oxford in England. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Ed. It's great to be here. Good morning.
I know it's been a couple of years since we've had this pleasure of TV talk.
It's amazing how the time goes.
I know. So at 20 minutes past the hour, Isha is going to do a quick presentation with a couple of slides. It's about, why don't you self-intro, and it will be more succinct with you doing it than me stumbling through what I'm remembering about your career.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Well, I'm the founder of Pronounce Me, which is a startup started at Oxford University Innovation, and we work in corporate training for global executives. So it's really supporting executives who are using English as a second language with challenges that they may not have been aware that they had to do with producing sounds in English that are actually quite difficult for people to do using English as a second language in a way that enables them to have executive presence in their workplace and lead a team confidently, lead an international team using English as a second language. So that's the gist of what we do. There are actually very specialized programs for people from different language backgrounds and different industries and so on, but I'll tell you more about that shortly. Thank you, Ed.
You bet. For those of you who are in the background and on mute, I welcome you to join this party. So please just come on into the room. If I need to do something, let me know in the chat. While talking about this chat vehicle on the bottom here of the screen, you see chat. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in writing by giving your email or website LinkedIn, so that becomes a permanent record of the broadcast for sure, but also the communication device of introduction. That's the purpose of the Global Meeting Room, as I call this group here. You're in the Global Meeting Room, and that means it's an opportunity to meet and greet, of course, but explain about your brands, and that's with an S, brands. Philip Berry taught me about brands 25 years ago and still does to this day. So I'm a constant student of Philip Berry. But the concept that he promotes and I'm talking about now through the show, and you have all experienced that to some extent already, is to get people to feel comfortable about being on camera, the little green light looking at you, and to not be afraid and to speak clearly and simply about the culture behind your corporate brand. Ron and Marty Cooper have perfected that, the Cooper culture. And he talks about their beliefs and about how it's has transformed him, but also transformed people in business who are trying to do something bigger or different than they had previously. And Ron is going to get into that a lot better than me. This is a vehicle for explanation in a practical way. Excuse me. In a few minutes, Professor Stemhoff is going to take the stage here. Carolina has a short presentation as well. Isha has a short presentation about how people who are executives in companies but don't speak English as a first primary language are feeling the stress for not being comfortable enough. And Isha, through the Oxford Innovation approach, perfection. And so I'm going to stop talking. So the concept here is to share ideas, to talk about your professional brand, the culture behind the professional brand, and how your brand actually helps companies, helps people do something different. And then your personal brand. Who are you? What makes you who you are? And what has happened in your life you can talk about or not talk about it, it's okay. But relate to that so the audience understands more about you personally and what you would like to do to help your professional brand. Philip Berry calls that meshing, coming together. And that is what the public is seeing right now, looking at us. Oh, will look when I start to market this program later tonight. So Carolina is going to do a quick presentation in about 20 minutes or so. Stefan has a time constraint at the top of the hour. First, let's go now to Isha Carol, who will do a easygoing few minutes showing a few slides and talking about the need to enunciate. Welcome, Isha.
Thank you, Ed. I'm just getting the slideshow up. And so
Yeah, okay.
slick,
Use my screen share.
however slick one wants to appear, there's always that sort of little lag of getting
Yeah,
it
right.
up.
Okay, good.
Here we go.
And tell us about yourself, of course.
Yes, okay. So about me, I have this pretty diverse background that includes a lot of conventional academia. I read English at Oxford, and then later on, I studied sociology and music at SOAS. And I also have a creative background, and I was an actor for a while. I had a lot of training in theatre, also in music, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So it's quite a holistic background, but also, you know, with that kind of academic edge. And a few years ago, I was teaching in Italy, and I found that class after class was making the same mistakes with English, and there was a sort of pattern to it, which, you know, the linguistic scientific part of my brain was interested in. And I realized it's because of the very limited sounds that they have in English, and they were just substituting those sounds for English sounds that they weren't used to making. And I started to create a methodology to help them, and then realized that I had the foundations of a business, took it to, first of all, the Saïd Business School in Oxford, and then to Oxford University Innovation. And they helped me to develop it into a methodology which is now being used in the corporate world. So I'm hoping to get these slides up to show you a little bit more
No.
about that, but I'm happy. I'm just going to hit share and hope this isn't some strange thing on my, oh, I see, allow, this is a new laptop I'm on. So sorry that maybe not everything is in place. Maybe it's better if I just read, if I just talk to you instead of trying to fumble around with the slides. So sorry about that, Ed. I've worked very hard at getting beautiful slides for you. We have a silent problem in global business, which is that we assume, HR assumes when they hire somebody as an executive in a company, that if it says on their resume, their CV, that they have a high level of English, C1 or C2, or that they have the IELTS qualification, some other kind of prestigious certification, that they're ready to lead a team or sell or present or all three. And I've worked by now with a lot of really brilliant people in finance, especially, but also in law, tech, who are fluent English speakers, but they're not fully heard in their workplace. And that's an important distinction between speaking and being heard and being received. And it shows up in very subtle ways. Sometimes they hesitate before speech because they feel unsure of themselves. Sometimes they have a mental replay after a meeting and, you know, have that moment of doubt. Did they really understand what I said? And sometimes it's just a kind of long intake of breath before you launch into presenting complex material. And we're not talking about recent graduates, we're talking about senior experienced professionals at management level. So this isn't because they don't have a good grasp of English grammar or all the other things that we learn when we're learning another language. It's really about their clarity, their presence, and their confidence when they're under pressure. So what makes the Pronounce Me methodology different? We're really helping global executives transform the way that they sound, but also the way that they're perceived. And this is important because they have to be perceived as competent leaders. And sometimes that idea of competence is tied up with how confident we sound when we're speaking a second language. And the two have to kind of mesh in a way that makes them convincing in their role. So using this blend that I described earlier of academic linguistics, skills that are drawn from theatre and music methodology, and real world insights from their industries, usually finance, law, and tech, where we're looking at the kind of very complex vocabulary they often have to use in their industries. I mean, if you know anything about finance, it's full of complex jargon, and that can be very difficult to get your mouth around as a speaker of another language. So we do specific exercises on that. And it's not like conventional language training, which is much more about kind of levels and grammar and reaching certain, you know, things that are ticked off. It's much more about working live, whether that's in person or online, working in real time on their real business speech and their presentations and scenarios that arise in their workplace, so that by the time the client steps into the room, into that presentation, into that sales call, their voice and message land with authority. So you can see this is very much about impact that matters. And to give you an example of the kind of clients I've been working with, I've coached executives at Rabobank, AXA Investment Managers, Petrodec, very recently the Council of Europe Development Bank. So these are people in, you know, very well recognized international firms. When they have reached a leadership position in those companies, their voice really matters, their executive presence really matters, their leadership skills matter, and how they're perceived obviously matters. And it's a very personal transformation because it's something that probably their education to date, their training to date, even their work experience to date hasn't given them. And this is the kind of thing I hear from my clients. They say that they feel calmer in meetings. They say that they feel like they have the voice of a leader. And now people listen to what they mean and not just the actual words. So even though we're focusing on pronunciation to some extent, it's not really about accent erasure. It's much more about coming into the fullness of your being as a leader using English as a second language. So it's not about clarity as a cosmetic issue. It's really about clarity as a leadership skill and giving people a voice that reflects the value that they bring to the table. So that's Pronounce Me, and I'd be really pleased to have your questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go first. I want to ask you to describe that slide that is having trouble getting up, but I've been showing that on globalbusinessnews.net for a few years now since you first presented that. It's blue background and you have yellow circles and with black type within those circles to identify the perimeter of what you're talking about. Why don't you just take us visually in your mind what that looks like and explain what these segments are?
Well, Ed, I think you're talking about the Pronounce Me logo, and that is a yellow globe on a blue background. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so the globe was the idea, of course, that this is it's a global problem. In fact, it's a global challenge because English is the dominant language globally in business, and it has a very complex history of formation, which, I spent years studying in Oxford, and it is very difficult for people from other language backgrounds to master all those sounds because a lot of them don't exist in other languages. A lot of them are really complex. And nonetheless, this is a scenario that we all face in global business, global leadership, politics, any field really. We're using English as the international language. So rather than trying to position Pronounce Me as something that is just from England and, is a kind of another outpost of the empire imposing English on all the other countries in the world, it's much more about building a bridge between the sounds of English and the sounds of other languages and helping speakers of other languages feel at home with their version of English.
Isn't that interesting? Okay, so I want you, if you haven't done it already, is to use the chat, Isha, and put your website down in that, and so people can go and have a look at it at their leisure. And it's very easy to navigate. I've done it several times, including in prep for this. So please do that if not already done. Thank you. So Isha, please meet Professor Stemhoff.
Yeah, thanks for making it possible, Isha. Nice to meet you. And yeah, I completely agree with your, let's say, argumentation about the role of language and the communication. And I think yeah, of course, we can even include the nonverbal communication, yeah, facial gestures and non-facial expressions and so on that might be included in communication, the role of misunderstandings involved in the wrong, let's say, setting of communication. And I think that might be a first attempt, or maybe let's say even the last attempt to communicate. And I really liked your argumentation about the role of executives, leaving their home country behind and going abroad for an international assignment, for example, and being forced to communicate outside their mother tongue, so to say, yeah, and that would lead to, let's say, yeah, frustration, would lead to setbacks, it would lead to misunderstandings, and it would even deteriorate or mitigate, or mitigate wouldn't be the right sense, would even lower maybe your role and your influence, your importance as a leader. Yeah? As you said, Ron, you just took a course on executive leadership development. Yeah, and I think one aspect of executive leadership and one competence of executive leadership is communication. So therefore, really interesting insights from your side.
Thank you. And the point you make is really important about perception, and perhaps a perception of someone's speech may be lowering their perceived value in somebody's eyes, which is if you've worked so hard to get to that executive managerial role, that's a terrible risk in your career. So, we want to mitigate that risk and give the support that those executives need to go forward and lead in those roles.
So Professor, let me ask you about a paper that you have done and a live teaching session that you have recently done. I was not involved, but I read about it. I'm really impressed. About repatriation. I have produced a couple of conferences as well as some TV shows about the psychological safety factor and mental health of expatriate employees and family while on assignment, and the role of coaching the expat to help the expat be more productive and the family to be more integrated in the assignment. In other words, be happy and let the employee do the work that needs to be done without the assignment being jeopardized by the trauma of being the other. In other words, an expat on assignment is not necessarily welcomed into the community. They're the other. And mental health issues come from that. What's your take on that? What's your thinking?
A very interesting point, and the topic you're bringing in to just post one of our latest white paper on this topic, repatriation and expat well-being. I think you can even turn it down to the aspect of burnout, yeah, mental health issues, and we can nudge the role of the family, yeah. So if you have a stable background, maybe, or a stable fundament of your family involved in international assignment, that might maybe help you to improve your well-being abroad, yeah, or mental health issues. But what happens if one of your kids or your spouse gets ill, yeah, mentally ill, or you have to return? So I think the risk might be, well, multiplied by 4, or how many family members you might even have. And I'm not joking about that. Pardon me for my laughter. But I think you can even multiply the risk of mental health once you have to go for international assignments. It doesn't matter where you go. It might be an English-speaking country and you're familiar with English, or a different country. So I think that's the role, let's say, the risk of mental health issues. At least I got it in Germany. Maybe, Annette, you can agree on that. Is a little bit still a kind of a taboo, yeah. And we had like discussed many issues of mental health and expat well-being in our podcast series, Global People Mobility podcast, and the white paper. But it seems everyone wants to cover it, yeah, like the relocation management companies as well. But once it comes to, I would say, value added or implications and what's the measures to be taken out, I still miss the bigger picture, so to say, yeah, of measures, organization-backed measures, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
So
organization-backed
what?
measures.
So
Yeah,
what about the coaching?
I think.
Coaching people. The company has a
Mhm.
psychological contract.
They do
Uh,
have, exactly. You want to have your psychological safety, as you
right.
named before. Yeah, yeah. I think coaching could be a good a measure, or mentorship, however you call that. But in the end, it's cost intensive, and sometimes you have to turn your inner out, yeah. And we may be having like those individual yeah, circumstances or individual challenges. We don't want to turn our inner out, yeah. And as I said before, we are going to an international assignment. We are strong leaders, or maybe well-established, well-seasoned executives in our own company, working for whatever company in Germany or in the US, and now you are settled to another country, and you have to learn from the scratch. It's like learning to fly for a bird, or maybe learning to walk for a young kid of 1 year or 1.5 years. You're really starting a new life. I remember that from my own wife. She's from Brazil, and she left Brazil. Well, the love made it happen, to Germany roughly 10 years ago. And one day she said, well, I entered a new life. It's completely starting from zero. It's completely starting from the scratch. Yeah. It's not only learning the language, it's like access to the social security system. It's like access to to local norms and the keys. Yeah. And language might be one key, but it's not all. Yeah. Like learning a language is just one element. It's one mosaic, but it's not all. Yeah. And therefore it's completely it's a completely stressful situation relocating to another country. It's not comparable to holidays, yeah? You go to wherever, Italy, you come back after 2 weeks and you have your adventurous time and your leisure time. It's a stressful moment. You have to integrate in two ways. You have to integrate professionally and you have to integrate privately into a new setting. And this double stressful situation might, I would say, overwhelm our minds and our mental well-being or our mental balance in this sense.
So what about this issue of when a repatriated, when expat family is brought back to the home country?
Yeah,
They are different people, and
they are.
they come back into something that may look the same, but nothing's the same. People have changed, situations have changed, and
Exactly. Your
so there's
country changes.
another
Yeah.
burst of mental instability
Yeah.
and wondering what's going on. Most companies that I know of have stayed away from that issue. And meanwhile, the expat and the family have mental health concerns. Now, I'm not
Exactly.
dramatizing this, but it's a real thing. And I'm not going to give names now, but I've had private conversations with more than one American who was on a long-term expat assignment, successful, and then coming back into the U.S. and recently, and turmoil, what's perceived as turmoil, and perhaps a danger.
Mm.
I mean, this is like, whoa, what did I do to my life?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. It's a kind of a negative exposure maybe to risks you wanna avoid maybe, yeah. And again, like you're coming to your country of rich and your home country, but it's like a reverse cultural shock as we stated in academia or scientific discussion. And I think it's, as you said, it's completely underrated by organizations, by companies. Yeah, it's everything is covered from taxation, from compliance issues, but it's more technological side of expatriation or international assignments. But what about the human? What about the individual? What about the personal side of going abroad? We are different in our needs, in our motivations, in our resilience, in our backgrounds, in our experience, and you cannot compare one person with the other one, yeah, in terms of like what's your openness, and that was part of my academic research, looking on let's say the openness and extroversion of potential international assignees. And well, without any surprise, the more open a person or the more extroverted a person is, the easier it is for the person to integrate in a new country. But I think the cultural distance matters as well, yeah. We always think like let's say the US and the UK might be somehow comparable countries, speaking the same language and different tone and so on, but they're different countries, yeah. And as said before, I think countries, and you completely stated, countries move ahead, your surrounding move, and you have to integrate yourself into your own home country, which might be really shocking and disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah. Isha, do you
Uh,
want to comment on that? And then I want to go to Carolina and Annette and everybody.
Sure. Well, these are very important points about mental health, which is so still overlooked in pretty much every area of society. And of course, as Stefan says, there are specific challenges with relocating. And I know a little bit about that. It's funny that he mentioned Italy, because I have lived in Italy both as an expat and as somebody who went there to work. And it was a completely different experience. And I don't mind telling you what happened. My father had a heart attack on the day after I arrived at my job in Italy. So he was in intensive care, and I was suddenly in this position of having started a job in a new country and not knowing what was going on at home and needing to go back. And it was very stressful. And, there wasn't really enough support offered. And that's another story that if you're interested, we can have that chat separately. But I recognize things can happen. Anything can happen when you relocate. And a lot of support is needed because you won't have the friends, you won't have the support network that you would have had at home. That takes time to build up. And, life can change at any second. Life is very unpredictable. So we need, and then, by implication, we might be working in a second language too. So that places an extra level of stress, perhaps on the nervous system, or, having to think in two languages or whatever. And all of this requires space really to breathe and, sometimes to pause and gather oneself.
I want to bring in Carolina.
So I love how Aisha said about helping people to become their full being. I think this is very important to us as individuals everywhere in the world, and helping our customers to feel confident, to feel comfortable. Even speaking a second language is going to be very important for every actions they take in the future. Also, I love how Professor Stefan said he's building bridges between, companies, between people. I think each and all of us here, this is our goal at the end, connecting and, helping through communication that all our goals can be accomplished. And then it haven't been a better time to be humans, right? With the rise of technology and everything is so crazy and automized, bringing our own touch, to our professions, to what we do every day to help our customers of humanity, I think is the most important in these days.
Okay, great. We want to look at your slides in just a couple of minutes. Annette?
Oh, I can agree to everything what I've heard now, because I've also been living in Italy for a while, and at the same time, for me, the advantages are bigger than the disadvantages, because yes, I've changed, and I would say that in Italy, I've left some of my German, maybe rigidness or organizational point of view. So in my opinion, the best solution really is to be prepared, to have someone who I can talk to. And then to really just experience it. And I've also been working with students of the Erasmus program. It's a special program for international students. And it was so great to work with them. And they really came from every part of the world, and to really experience these differences and to experience them as enriching. And that's, in my opinion, what's so important, to really learn from each other. And yes, sometimes one can feel lonely being away from home for such a long time. And at the same time, really to kind of dive a little bit into a culture. It's a completely another experience. In my opinion, it at least it was like this for me. It really widened my horizon, and I wouldn't have missed it. And my children, they also had been living abroad. My oldest son is now living in Norway. He has been there for the last 10 years, and I realize how this really changes people, in my opinion, for the better. I could go on talking on this, but I'll stop over here.
Yeah, Stefan, would you like to comment?
Well, that's very enlightening and motivating statement, Annette. Thank you for that. I think we all might be role models, yeah. So and we really need role models in terms of being an example, positive example of positive expatriation or assignment experience. But where do we find those role models? Is it in an organization? Is it in online chats as we do have it here, Zoom meetings? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it in your family, in your friends, in your personal surrounding, colleagues? I think we need to identify those role models, but I think at the end, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to be negative, but I think the negative examples of failed non-successful international assignments are predominant, and therefore that might lead to, let's say, less risky behavior of international assignees. Yeah, so it's better to stay at home to have my well-known familiar surrounding, to have my friends, to have my hobbies, to have my bakery, have my haircutters next by, and I don't want to leave my comfort zone. Yeah, I don't wanna nurture my resilience. What's the
Yeah,
value added? What's in for me? Yeah.
yeah, boy. Let's say hello, hola to Diana from Bogota. Welcome again.
Hiya, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Very nice to meet you. My name is Diana. I'm an attorney in Colombia, and I am the director of Newline Chase in Colombia. Newline Chase is a company that manages global corporate immigration. So yeah, that's my profile. Going back to the topic, from my experience in immigration, unfortunately, as an immigration attorney, we just go to the point where we get someone into a country and their family members. When the family repatriates, which is like Ed was talking about and Stefan were talking about some minutes
Mm.
ago, we don't have that visibility about the trauma that may bring to the family and the issues that they may experience going back as different people, right? That's something that I haven't seen many clients assisting with this type of processes afterwards, but I do believe it's very important. And I wanted to bring to the table the spouse that lives to work on the first place, lives its life to accompany the other spouse, the other partner to some country due to work. At this point, many visa options do not allow, many immigrant countries do not allow dependents to work in that certain country. And when this family goes back to their country of origin, I think it's very hard for the spouse that wasn't working, that was taking care of home, to go back and try to find their own life into how do I insert myself into the labor force again. And probably there has been some years and probably you're not as you were, like your career was put on hold, and it's very difficult to reinsert yourself back into the labor force. And I think that's probably where companies should provide certain aid for the family in terms of their university courses that they provide upgrades to people who have been out of the labor workforce, and expat groups like returnee groups. From Colombian perspective, legally, there are certain laws that support returnees. I mean, of course, these laws are more targeting individuals who were in process of deportation from other countries, so they provide them certain humanitarian aid and programs. But I think like companies, multinational companies that move individuals across the globe, I know they give this expat benefits when they arrive in a country for the dependents, for instance, like language skills and certain bonuses for the spouse to use in different programs they want to try to, get involved into the culture of that country. But they should also save some for when they come back to their country of origin, because there's also help that needs to, that they will need in that sense.
Thank you so much. Let's say hi to Angie Weinberger in Zurich.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Okay.
So Angie, introduce yourself to our panel here and to the world.
Hello. Yes. First of all, happy birthday, Ed.
Thank you.
Haven't seen you yet since then.
I know, and thank you for singing that song.
Pleasure. So I am a singer, and also I'm a founder. I started Global People Transitions in Switzerland 15 years ago. I used to work in corporate HR global mobility before that. And I'm also a lecturer in the field. I write books on global mobility topics. Yeah, Diana, I mean, you're speaking completely out of my heart. Expat spouses have been one of the people that I've worked with in expat coaching over the last almost 15 years. Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
it's my turn to jump in here for a sec. Angie Weinberger is a goddess in my view, because she helps people one-on-one privately deal with the stresses we've been talking about here. Just before you came on, we were talking about the impact of repatriation on the family and how in many instances, most till recently anyway, the company's been hands off. So I want to be sure, Angie, you meet Professor Stemhoff. He's in Munich,
Hello again.
and Angie's background is German.
Exactly.
And
And we know each other, by the way, yeah.
oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Okay, and
The
Annette.
DGM world is small, Edwin,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Annette, Angie, I think you've met before on the program. Angie, meet Carolina, who's from Brazil. And so Stefan, your wife, you mentioned briefly, is from Brazil.
Exactly, yeah. She's
Yeah.
from Minas Gerais, yeah. Let's see, Minas Gerais would be the English pronunciation. Exactly, and that's a very interesting case. And we have a kid, a bicultural kid between the two languages. And here we go again, the role of languages, how you transport your message through words. Yeah, and that's very interesting to see how language leads to identification, how language leads to a LinkedIn or to a linking to your own culture. And that's sometimes underestimated, saying that, well, I speak English, I can work wherever I want all over the world in 180 countries. That's far away from the truth, yeah, because like having English as a foreign language or having English or another language as your mother tongue, it makes such a difference. And we talked about it, you talked about the role and the development of countries. I think languages develop as well, yeah. And once you move or once you leave your country and you come back after 10 years or 15 years, you might use a language that might be a little bit obsolete or outdated, yeah, leading to another uncomfortable situation once it comes to the communication, yeah. So Annette, you're laughing about that, but we use words that maybe you used 40 years or 30 years ago now, and it might seem to be a little bit, whatever, a little bit obsolete or old, whatever. Yeah. So it's not only the country developing and changing, it's the language, it's the communication in the country changing that might, as said before, might lead to a new level of discomfort once you return back from your international assignment after 5, 10, 20, 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Carolina, would you like to show your slides now? Upload to my screen share.
All right.
Hopefully
And-
it'll work.
And as I do so, let me ask everybody, if I give you the number 60%, do you think it's a high number, low number? Type in the chat or tell me, what do you think? 60%.
I think it's high, but I don't know what you're referring to.
That's a good point. 60%, let me see the chat. Medium, quite high, okay. So we don't know what I am referring to. And guys, according to studies, over 60% of business misunderstandings stem not from bad intentions, but from poor communication. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever feel like you're not able to communicate, even in your own language, or maybe when you were learning a secondary language, that your words were not enough? Do you know this feeling? Because
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So very frustrating. I remember myself in my 20s feeling isolated, unable to speak and express myself. When I moved to the United States, I went to serve a voluntary mission there in Washington, D.C. So simple tasks like going to the restaurant, ordering my food, impossible, or answering a phone call. It was a nightmare for me. Every interaction made me feel vulnerable, frustrated, and completely dependent on others. So there I understood that is not only the language barrier, but the barrier of confidence, connection, and feeling capable in a foreign world that I need to overcome. So with time, I became an English teacher. I realized that knowing English is a game changer, but it wasn't the final answer for me. As I built my career, training clients for an American company, I thought I was okay. You know, I was able to understand them, to answer their questions. But when I actually got to visit travel agencies on site, deliver training on site, and see that, for example, I was going there to tell them that we were going to change their system that they were using for over 20 years. And I was the person that was going to do that for them. Not always was easy. Reality hit me in this point. So there I understood that I really had to put myself in their shoes, listen to them. This was very, very important to me. Listen to what they had to say and ask good questions. With that, I became, since 2018, a corporate English mentor. Nowadays, I help professionals, you know, that want to improve their careers. Also, I work with companies that send their employees to other countries to live there. I help the spouses with the idiom, with the language, the employees. But most of all, we talk about learning the tools that will get them navigate and feel good in this new experience. And it's not only the language skills, but also learning the culture, the nuances, the small things that will really make you connect with people everywhere in the world. I don't want to take too much time today, but I just wanted to share with you that feel in myself this barrier of language of communication is what drives me nowadays to help my students, to help my mentees in their process, and it's very rewarding. And I will be more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Isha?
Well, I loved what you had to say, Carol. A lot of it resonated for me, and especially the idea of the way this resonates outside the workplace. You know, the need to communicate appears in every aspect of our lives. And we've talked a lot about global mobility and relocation in this discussion. And of course, you know, those executives have to put their children into schools. And as we've also discussed, you know, what happens to the spouse, and everybody needs to adjust to living in a different environment and navigating all the relationships that involves. And so the more confident, the more kind of grounded we feel in the language of the country that we're operating in, you know, that confidence, that sense of relaxation ripples out into every aspect of life, whether it's through gesture or just feeling connected with people and feeling that we have an understanding with people in everyday life. These are all such important points.
So I know you have time constraints, Stefan. Would you like to sum up, and please come back on the program at another time?
Yeah,
So
with pleasure. Yeah, very interesting, Isha, what you just said before. Like again, the role of language, and it just resonates with an own experience in both Brazil and Spain, where I spent some time. I think it's like communicating on a superficial level. It's like ordering a beer, as we say. It's easy, but once it comes to, let's say, crucial, sensible situation, let's take the example, you have to lay off persons, being an executive in your company, and you really need the right words. You really need the right, let's say, statement. You really need the right momentum. And it's not possible without just having a profound knowledge of the language. And I remember a situation in Brazil when I get into an accident, a small one, just drove a quad, and we lost track and had to go to a medical point in Minas Gerais. And they wanted me to take two X-rays, yeah. So I was there sitting around. I wouldn't say shocked, but a little bit, yeah, a kind of strange situation, and communicating in a language about a very, let's say, sensible health issue. I think that was one of the most frightening moment for me, yeah. And that's kind of situation, health issues, work issues, professional issues, or other sensible issues that shows us the limits of our communication in a different language.
Ron Cooper.
I'm very involved in this conversation. Ed and everyone, I tend to think of these type conversations from an elementary, or let's say a foundational view, and it has to do with relationships. I think we all function best when we have connected relationships, and I think a universal language is, or at least a universal trait, is when we demonstrate I care about you, even if we don't speak your language, I can purvey that. Stefan, you talked about nonverbal language. And when with my facial expressions, I make eye contact with you, I have an outreach to you that demonstrates to you I care. I want to help you with our menu. I want to help you understand or assimilate yourself in our country. But when I'm in your country, I too want to assimilate myself. And so, Ed, I think when we demonstrate we genuinely care about other people, I do know that there are different things that happen at the top level, let's say at the governing policy level, and we may or may not agree with that, but I would certainly hope that without violating international law and so forth, we can, let's just say, set aside any top level policy topics with which we might disagree, but can we find some common ground where we do agree on something? And I like to approach relationships from that somewhat very elementary foundational view. And I just choose to believe that when we do, we can all find a way somehow, some way to get along with each other.
And here's Chris Exline live from Ukraine. Thank you for being there.
Thank you for this incredible program. I've been in corporate relocation for about 30 years, and repatriation is still the same problem today as it was 30 years ago. Expats coming back to their parent company, not having a direct place or a career path on, what their experiences were, or, expatriates like myself that have been out of the United States for so many years. I find it difficult to go back. When I am back in the United States, it's not the same country I left in the mid-90s. But I have a little bit different take, having been an expatriate for almost 30 years. I'm in Ukraine, and I've made it a point to never learn the language here. In fact, it's my business school is doing a case on why I will not ever learn the language here, and learning how to communicate, motivate staff, convey a corporate culture, convey, as like Stefan and Ron and everybody else was saying, how do you convey that you actually care about these people that work for you, and not speak the language? And in fact, what could be more offensive than when you have new employees and they say, "Oh, what Ukrainian do you know?" I said, "Well, I don't know any, and I never intend to." That's about as offensive thing as you can say to someone. But I also, Alicia, before you get in, before you jump through the bookcase, I don't expect anyone to speak English. Okay, it's not like, hi, I'm an East Coast elite from the United States, and I expect everybody to take their English classes, with annoying rapidity. So, but it's there are the technology today. When I moved to Hong Kong, almost 30 years ago, trying to understand Cantonese and the Romance language that is Cantonese, trying to understand the Chinese culture, and how that culture and how could I assimilate, as Ron said, into their culture, but yet not sacrifice my own, because I'm the CEO of a company with operations in 21 countries, and I cannot be a chameleon. Chameleons can't lead companies. They try, they always fail. So what is our corporate culture? What is it defined by? And how do you have an ability to communicate that? Just by sending an email. You can send emails to staff in India, Spain, Portugal, mainland China, and Ukraine, and they'll all read it differently. And so, how you craft those is really a huge measure of will you be successful or not. And how do you align a 700 staff to a common set of corporate principles and goals, and yet also not bend every day to people's personal whims that, that enable them to miss targets. And so it is quite difficult. And I'm so honored to see all of these people on your call, Ed, that are committed to helping corporations do that. But again, it's just damn shocking that 30 years on, companies still just don't seem to get it. And by companies, I mean mostly American companies. Okay. I mean, it's, I don't want to mention any corporate names out there, but send them out there. And they go out there for one of a few reasons. One, either as a part of a career change, so they have some corporate management experience overseas, or a turnaround situation, or a new market entry, or they go in there because they have to, it's a merger, or trying to assimilate a new company. All four of those reasons are extremely difficult to manage, and if companies don't train their expatriates on why they're there, if you're there for a stepping stone, just don't rock the boat. These are our products. We do very well there. This is mostly the consumer goods, like Procter & Gamble, and another one that's one of Ed's favorites that is something I use every day on my toothpaste. But I mean, don't rock the boat. Or if you're going in through mergers and acquisitions, which is extremely difficult, how do you imprint your corporate culture on people that don't like you because you bought their company? Or how do you do greenfield development where you're doing new market entries? How do you try and talk to a whole new people? Like when I went into Dubai in 2003, we were the first company to do furniture rental in the entire Middle East. And in Dubai, for those of you that know there, none of our employees were Emiratis. They were from all over the place, mostly Indians. And so, you're dealing with all of these different cultures in a city that's not their own. And then, of course, turnarounds. Turnarounds are the worst type of situation for any expatriate to go into, because the entire staff is passively aggressive against you because they know that you're there to, immediately increase cost, which is slashing personnel, slashing budgets, do the type of revenue increases that are required by corporate, and then you're going to be gone in 2 years and they're left with everything else. So they know that you have no intention of ever trying to be there to look out for their families, look out for their personal interests. And when you ask your PA, well, sure, don't tell me that there's no business class seats available for me to get back to Dallas, Texas. You find a way to do that. I mean, you're talking to people that are struggling to pay a mortgage or even save enough money to get a mortgage. So those are the things that I would really hope that, and have hoped that mostly corporate America would try to instill in its expatriates. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing such a disintegration in expatriate movement and globalizations over the years. But I applaud everybody that's on this call trying to, convey a sense of, how do you get in touch with the people with whom you're supposed to work with? Forget leadership. If you have to teach an expat about leadership before they go on assignment, you've already failed. I mean, it's about these are your objectives. What are you going to do in the time that you're there, the 2 to 3 years that you're there? Where, if you do that, what's waiting for you when you get back? And, how do you leave the organization in a place where it can be transitioned?
Ali, I care about what you want to say, but Ron's got his hand raised.
Yeah, and
Chris,
just a small interruption. I have to leave, so talk to you soon. Thank you, Ron. Pardon me for interrupting you. So let's talk soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Chris, I just want to ask you somewhat quickly. It could be a much longer conversation, so I don't want to dominate too much time. But in the context of expatriation, starting a business in a new company, a new country, yes, I talk about core values. My company represents core values. I think we need to, from my perspective, separate what are peripheral issues from core topics. And I do want to assimilate in a country to meet your need. And I have a product or service that meets your need. Let's work together to determine how I can best meet your need and so forth. But Chris, that's my thought on it, and maybe that's a longer topic for you and I to take offline. But I'm very interested in how you think about that.
Sure, and it's right front and center of everything I do every day, because remember, I'm dealing in a country that's at war. I'm dealing with a population of customers and of staff and suppliers that wake up every morning wondering if one of their relatives is still alive. I'm dealing with a country where the mental health issues are unquantifiable. You know, how do you tell children in a place that's so religious that God has a plan? And I believe in God. I'm not anti-Christian or anything like that. But how do you tell these children, you know, who have lost a father? How do you tell parents who've lost a son? How do you tell wives that have lost a husband that somehow, you know, this is all part of a plan is going to make sense? So there's a dynamic in this, Ron, that is, I mean, and I've been in, I think you and I've talked about it. I've been in Afghanistan and Iraq. I set up the entire government of South Sudan in juvenile fascia. So I've been in conflict zones, and some of which I won't even admit here, some of which are actually in the news today. But you know, what I'm getting at is, this conflict zone is unlike anything I've ever experienced, and it requires a sensitivity to the people. And you know, I mean, as an American executive, you know, our number one job is removing excuses. You know, and Ron, you've got a military background. I mean, it's removing excuses. You've got to be very careful about trying to remove every excuse that comes your way, because you know, even if you don't think they're legitimate, my gosh, they sure as hell are. And you know, and I've grown more in the past couple of years here than I did in the previous 28. You know, because you know, all of us, we're senior executives. I mean, you know, I was sitting in the 31st floor of an office tower in central Hong Kong, and you're in your own floor and you're surrounded by your own people, and you talk about an incubated environment. The only difference is nothing ever hatches, you know, except this. And you're out here and you're in the middle of this small town Ukraine, and you know, it's if you don't assimilate, but if you don't acquire an appreciation for the challenges that these people endure every minute of every hour of every day, then you just need to go home, wherever you call that is.
Ali.
Just for the record, I did not raise my hand. I love what I'm hearing. I'm just soaking it in. I love everything I heard. Oh my goodness, I can spend the last hour commenting on everyone and underscoring everything was said. So I definitely also underscore just with Chris mentioned. I know it's I commend you for recognizing that right now is just learning a language and be really good at it. It takes a long time, especially if somebody who's like 10 years old, 15 years old, absolutely. I think it's great. And having seen you and talking before in previous discussions with Ed, I know you have that. I mean, so you learned a few words of good morning, how are you in Ukraine, right? You know, I don't know, you don't even do that. So I highly recommend you do that, because coming from a different culture, when I meet somebody and they try to speak my language, just the little things, it makes a big difference. That sends a message to me that you're interested in my culture. That's me. I may be wrong, but the majority of the folks who are that came from different cultures, it sends a really good message that you care about the culture and you're doing your best. You don't have to be proficient. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. I had a Japanese customer, one of the airline customers, told me the importance of not going too far. He said, I love it when Americans come to come to Japan, but we don't like it when they want to be more Japanese than we are. Right? So absolutely, I definitely agree with what you said. I mean, just with the topic in general, I love what I heard from everybody. And I just remember Ernest Hemingway, who said, you know, it takes 2 years to learn a language, to speak. And you spend 60 years learning how to make it better, how to speak, how to gain good communication skills. So you can imagine if someone who grew up in a country and know the language, and yet they spend 60 years to learn how to speak better. Can you imagine if someone who's learning a new language? So to me, I really love what I just heard. And Aisha left, but I'm glad Caroline and Diana are here, and Annette, that you guys are working in that domain. I encourage you to look for, not just for executives, go to the schools, learn and teach language, not just the easiest way and the quickest way to go from point A to point B. I learned English the wrong way. I learned it from a Lebanese who studied in England, and it was a shortcut. If I ask somebody, they taught me, if I say, ask someone to give you a book, you tell them, give me the book. If I'm in a meeting and I tell my executive who's working with me, give me the report, they'll be like, come on, can you say, could you please, do you have time? May I look at it? There are more words. And when you learn a new language, the least number of words, the better. Unfortunately, it's not. So I work, and so I suggest is just with part of the work is go straight to to learning the language from the very beginning, learning how to be diplomatic. Thank you for pointing that out. This is the book that I had. First of all, I want to say, Angie, your song was really cool yesterday. We celebrated Ed's birthday yesterday, and I don't want to mention. I don't know if I can mention the age, but it was awesome. What was that?
Huge.
Okay.
Huge number.
I know he looks 50, he looks 60. I'm telling you. But it was like an opportunity to really commend Ed for giving that opportunity and in creating this environment where we exchange ideas and we grow. If we all think the same way, we're not growing, right? We have that. It just triggered the mind of thinking, oh, I was thinking this way, maybe I should think about it that way. So I love what I heard, and that's something that I've learned when I learned English. I mean, for a long time, I keep on making it better and better and better. The book that Ed mentioned, this is actually a result of Ed's effort. He Stephen Howard and we met on this show, and we wrote a book partnering with American firms. This is directed to executives, international executives who want to do business in the United States. And a lot of times, and there's that misconception that Hollywood is doing such a great job in teaching the world how Americans think. No, trust me. I started in the United States when I first came from Lebanon. I went to Alabama. So I was in the South. I mean, I was just like thinking of culture shock, right? But I can tell you, it's back to what Ron mentioned earlier, that it's that caring piece, right? I had an awesome time down in the South. I don't know. Maybe it's just how when we change the way we look at things, things change. And we always attract the people that think the same way we do. So it's very hard when you walk around and you smile, and for people to be angry, why are you smiling? Most of it, at least they don't show an angry face. At least that's the case. So
Carolina, I saw you taking notes about the book cover. Just send Ali a little text message using the chat, and you guys can connect offline.
Yes, and I'm working on another book right now that is similar to. I mean, it probably would be an interest that would help. So I'd love to learn from you all. And again, thank you for the opportunity, Ed. I love your show. I think you're doing an awesome job. Oh my goodness. We owe you a lot.
Thank you. So Annette, she practices peace and love on corporate teams. So what happens when that doesn't work? What do you do?
You mean when the people won't accept but are you saying that
they have a beef, they have an argument with someone on the team, and it creates a tension. How do you solve that problem?
Yeah, so I'm more the moderator. I'm not the one giving the solution. I'm the one asking questions. And so it's really that I ask each person for his or her viewpoint. And then I look for similarities, and then I ask them, yeah, can you agree to this? And even if they can't agree, then I try to get the agreement that at present they don't agree. And to have this agreement is already better than no agreement at all. And then sometimes I really finish the discussion and tell them, okay, today we won't find the solution. Yeah, can we part with the agreement that today we don't agree. And then very often I ask, okay, so what might be a next step, or when are we going to meet, or what do you need? And sometimes it really helps people to just reflect what they have been listening to. And in my opinion, it also makes sense to talk about a follow-up meeting. And so far, it really wasn't that we didn't come to an agreement at all. Only sometimes it was that it took more steps than maybe we had anticipated. Does this answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Angie, what do you think about all this conversation today? It's the end of your day there in Zurich.
Yes, and you probably see it. It's very sunny today. We have a hot summer day in Switzerland. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I would like to talk about in relation to all the things that you've said. And first of all, Chris, I'm always really impressed when I hear you talk, because, you know, this is a very specific situation that you're in. And I agree. I think, you know, there's a few things we need to start with. We need to start with, you know, where we have influence. And some of us have influence on corporations. So, for example, you know, when we think about policies, assignment policies, HR policies, what are the things that we can actually work on and influence? When I teach more junior HR professionals, there are some things that I always talk to them about, like, you know, we need to include intercultural awareness, we need to include language training, we need to include spousal career support, for example, because I feel like they cannot hear it enough from all of the people that actually have a say and experience with these topics. But I also agree with you that, you know, we also need to work on the leadership skills. So one of my programs, Global Rockstars, is for global leaders that are in these situations every day. I mean, I don't know if you can imagine, but if you live in a city like Zurich, Switzerland, or an expat hub like Dubai or Singapore, you do not speak one language in one day. We speak like 4 languages with different people every day. It is kind of exhausting, but it's also like how every global leader now interacts. If you manage a global virtual team, you bring together people from various backgrounds, various cultures, various generations, and you have to learn to deal with the diversity as an inclusive leader. So I think that's a big challenge. And I think I still feel like in many HR departments or in many companies, especially since the anti-wokeism movement has started, these topics are now on the back burner. It's not considered to be important anymore. It's all about how can we make more profit. We do not really care how we get there. So that's a real shame. And I think we can all contribute with, you know, standing against this kind of leadership style, because it's a question also of values, it's a question of style. I think it was you, Ron, who said, you know, what is the common ground? Yeah, I mean, you know, what is the common ground when we talk about people across the world? Our humanity, our shared values, our shared experiences, and the things we all love and find important, like our families. So I think if we work from there, if we work from the heart, things get so much easier. And this is also, you know, Annette, I commend the work you do. We need to learn that more, and we need to, I don't know, we also need to be there. We need to be present and actually support this kind of also in cooperation piecework. And I wanted to also recommend to you, I'm going to put it in the chat. I was just searching for a few links for you. If you're interested in these topics, we have a global organization of interculturalists, CIETA, and they run conferences around the world. There's one in Switzerland shortly next week, then there's one in Germany, there's one in the US. So wherever you are, if you're interested in going deeper, I would certainly recommend this organization to you. Enough from my side. I hope I answered your question, Ed.
Oh, it's just volumes of knowledge. Thank you. I want to go to Deanna and get her perspective on male-dominated or not culture in Latin America today, and the role of the new Mexican president as a leadership icon for women across Latin America. Chris, you raised your hand. Did you have something to say?
I wish I could stay on this call for hours. I'm going to have to scoot in a few minutes. Angie, thank you. I just want to say one thing to everybody else. Ali, I've been in Lebanon. I can tell you one of the things when I got here to Ukraine that made it different from where I've been in Singapore and Dubai and everywhere else is that I told people Americans are great at talking. I want my actions to be my statement. I think that if my actions can speak for me, then that's all I have to say. And I'm going to say something else, Angie. As an openly gay CEO of the largest furniture rental company on planet Earth, I don't think you ever backtrack on your values. The minute a company says, oh, this is anti-woke or anti-DEI or anti-whatever, then you have betrayed all of those people that work for you that without saying it had seen some form of inspiration for allowing themselves to be a part of your corporate culture and not denying who they were. I'm a guest in this country, and this country's heavily anti-gay. Everybody knows that I am. I'm not here to bring my lifestyle upon their culture. But I will tell you this, I'm not going to sacrifice who I am or deny who I am for one single dime of profit. Okay. And I haven't. And now it's taken me a lot longer to figure out how to align my corporate goals with the market here, but we've done it. My third location is already cash flow positive and profitable in month 2. I'm opening up 100 stores in this country. Okay. I've invested 7 figures of my own euro money in this country. That speaks louder. And what the people of Ukraine seem to understand better than anything else was when it was a scandal 2 years ago because my husband is kind of a popular rock star or pop star in Hong Kong, and he has fans in this tiny town. But what I'm getting at is, I didn't shy away from it, and people told me that I should. I said, no. When your actions become your statement, and when they see that I'm continuing to invest, and I do one thing that almost no man my age can do. Well, now all of them, because I'm over 60, but I keep coming back. And that, Ali knows, if you keep coming back and you don't have to, that sends a message that is more powerful than any words that I could articulate at any venue. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And Ron, yeah, our corporate cultures are a little bit different. And I may be wearing a purple cardigan sweater, but damn it, I'm just about as tough as you.
I commend you, Chris. I commend you. I love what you said. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your experience in Lebanon. So hats off to you.
You might not, but I'll send you some photos.
Okay.
All right, everyone, thank you so much. And what a great group. Ed, please do this again. And again, happy birthday, Ed. We look forward to the next years.
Thank you very much. Deanna, tell us what's going on in Bogota and in Latin America with respect to the new president of Mexico.
Well, more than that, I wanted to go back to your initial question regarding how male has always been like in leadership and how things are maybe switching in some countries. There have been some efforts to have leadership roles and women in leadership roles and be more inclusive. However, at this day, 5 to 10% of companies in Latin America are directed by male, but only by women CEO. So you can see the percentage is still very small. Board of directors, women only occupy 20% of the seats in LATAM. And this is even more complicated in certain industries such as technology, finance, energy. The gap is still bigger. some of the reasons why this is happening in Latin America is because of the patriarchal culture, still very strong, has always been strong. I mean, I don't want to say that there haven't been efforts done towards, tearing down that wall. But right now, still, the patriarchal culture is very, very strong, and the traditional gender roles are still very, very marked. It is always expected here in Latam that women prioritize family while the male is seen as a provider. And those roles in Latam still very strong. This takes a woman in a position where there are many obstacles. Since some of them are not very visible, but like it is clear that most opportunities are given to the male, to men. Also because if the woman is at an age where she's supposed to bring up family, there's always certain concern within companies that she is going to go on maternity leave. So why are we investing so much in this role given to a woman when she's at the age where maybe she's going to go on maternity leave soon, and she's probably not going to put the same time and efforts into the company as a man will do. So this is bringing, I mean, although Latam countries, like all of us, like all of Latam countries, they say that women and men are equal, but then you come across this type of situations that are built into the culture, right? There are advancements that have been made, like Chile, Mexico, Colombia. There are many private and public initiatives to try to break that bridge and try to make like efforts to be more accredited into the roles that women have. And there are many even private associations pushing for women in power, women in business, women in this. And those are efforts that are like trying to bring women in leadership roles. But to the date, we can still see that difference and this invisible situations that put women in a disadvantaged position. And I mean, and this is, I'm talking about statistics. This is not just my perception. There's the statistics in terms of women in leadership roles versus men, and it is right there. So, and that's what's happening in Latam right now, unfortunately.
Thank you. Carolina, would you like to comment?
Well, as Diana said, it is unfortunately a reality that we experience here. And I think building our own confidence, preparing for our positions within the market and is going to help our customers, help us to gain our place and to gain respect where we work. But still it's a huge challenge. It's a reality.
And just to compliment what Carolina was saying, as women, we have to prove ourselves as double as men do, because we know there is that burden behind us. We know there is those invisible roofs on our on shortened to possibilities. So I think we need, unfortunately, we're put in a position where we need to prove ourselves even harder than a man will do.
Annette.
Right.
In my opinion, fortunately, a lot has already changed during the last, let's say, 30 years, maybe 40 years, when I started to work, and also when my children were small. And this time, other mothers asked me if my husband didn't earn enough so that I had to work. And yeah, I wanted to work because I really loved my work. And I see how much has changed because my daughter and her husband, they now have a 1-year-old son. And so they both reduced their working hours to 30 hours a week, from 40 to 30 hours. So as I always love to have a look on the positive, that's for me already a step in the positive direction. At the same time, I know that there is still a lot to be done. And I really love to be part of a network which is called G100, where women support women, and it's really a worldwide network. And yeah, we are also including men, because we think that it's important that men also have the mindsets that we are all equal, that there is no, when I grew up, I had the impression that men were better than women. And if we now have men who say, okay, there is no difference, then this is also a very good and big contribution to really change things for the better.
Angie?
I live in a country where women only received the voting rights 50 years ago, and it's very conservative in many ways. So I think, you really have to look at these topics country by country, and also organization by organization. And as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, I really think we're going a huge step back right now in many organizations. And where I find this very visible is, for example, the support on LinkedIn for Pride Months. This used to be always like big, many companies changed their logo, and now there's only a few occasional ones. Companies are worried about repression from the US, from US clients, and that's why suddenly all of these initiatives with regards to inclusion don't seem to matter anymore. So yeah, that's why I say let's continue the fight. Let's continue to work on making things better for all minorities, cultural minorities, but also people who traditionally had a harder time in organizations because of systemic issues. I'm not only talking about women, it's basically many different variants of people that have challenges that are hard to see when you're white, for example, and you have privilege.
Ron?
I represent, I'm going to say, Ed, equal opportunity. I am not prejudiced in any form that one gender is better or worse than another. But in the context of equal opportunity, I want to promote those and work with those, mentor those, coach those who have a strong desire to become maybe more, the wording may be more than what they are. And so I want to work with those who want to be in a position that to excel, advance, and I want to do what I can to help advance them. I might in this group be in a minority position of, somewhat ideological on some social issues, but I hope I can be accepted, even if that is a factual statement. And I accept, I acknowledge people's views. Chris just mentioned, Chris Exline, that he's openly gay. And I acknowledge that. I don't endorse that lifestyle, but I certainly accept him, and I accept views that are different, lifestyles that are different from mine. I just don't promote them. And so that's who I am. And I would hope that I represent acceptance, even without endorsing what I consider some sort of social aberration. But I know what I just said, Ed, may separate me from some people. I hope not. I do want to be very accepting of people, even though we may have differing ideological and or social views.
So the purpose of this global meeting room, as I affectionately call this show, is to bring diversity together, to talk about common things and take the avenues of thought and expression overwhelm everything else. The idea is to have the communication, right? So,
And if I'm sorry.
No, go.
No. I just wanted to share that, there are good conflict and there are very dangerous conflicts. And the good conflicts is when you have two people think differently, but one is, you could say that one is right and the other one is wrong. That's clear. It's black and white. The crucial or the most dangerous conflicts are those two who both are right, but one believes that they're more right than the other. If you look at the worst civil wars, things, everybody's right. If I'm the person that, talking about changing cultures, learning languages. Mi esposa es de Mexico, by the way, Diana. My wife is from Mexico, and so there's that power. There's that uniqueness. Sometimes you don't want everybody to be doing exactly the same thing. There are a lot of things that I'm just because throughout the centuries that I can do things better. So maybe it's for me to do it right now, but that doesn't mean that my wife I should not be doing everything I can to help. And the same thing there too. She would be helping me to look at things how women are really good at. So we have those things, skills that we can learn from each other. It's not what is right or what's wrong that's really dividing the world. It's how things are introduced. The way I'm seeing it, the pendulum keeps on swinging. So at one point, one group of people, they think one way, they're very strong, and so they'll end up introducing their ideas not the right way. That makes the pendulum swing to the other side. Sorry. And now we're dealing about the opposite, that it's just like bringing us back, and we're never right in the middle. Everything is in moderation, and it's just be able to really communicate with each other and put ourselves in everyone's position. I could never go and say I worked in Italy, but I worked for like very short period of time. Do I say that I understand the Italian culture? Do I know 100% understand more Italians do? No. I have an idea that I want just to go and communicate with them and just see and ask questions and learn. So it's really, the key is really breaking those barriers and start communicating by sharing that we care, not necessarily trying to impress, but to express and be able to communicate. This is how I feel. I totally agree I totally understand what you're saying. Help me out understand it better. Why do you feel this way? I'm right in the middle of just being in the States and see, and like the rest of the world too, in certain areas they don't have those situations. But the way I see, I've heard the word assimilation a lot, many times. And for me, and in the book, I've mentioned it in my second book, I'm talking about it, is just when you come to a culture, you have got to go and appreciate the culture. You cannot just go and say, okay, I'm going to change things, and this is not the right way. You know what? Everybody's right. So you can't just say you're more right than others. And so it's how you appreciate, and how what we appreciate appreciates, and what we resist persists. This is bottom line. This is how it is in everything we do. And so just thank you for giving me that opportunity I've learned so much. Every time I get on the show with you, Ed, I say I walked away learning 100 times more than I shared. And I really appreciate the opportunity in creating this environment where I grow in those discussions. So thanks, Ed.
I grow from listening to you.
And thank you for everybody. It's a pleasure to see familiar faces, Ron, Angie, Annette. I think we've we've met before, but Diana, it's a pleasure meeting you. And so thank you again. I love it.
Thank you all for being on the show. Please come back again. See you soon, Ron. So you want to talk about the topic for our Thursday show?
The topic I suggested for Ed, and we meet once a week, is, and I alluded to it just a little bit, is knowing the main. We here in the U.S. frequently use the term "keep the main thing the main thing," and that is, how do we keep focus on what is important, but we can separate out peripheral issues, those things that sometimes tend to divide us. But yet we as leaders are not going to allow a peripheral issue or topic to divide us. I think we have to know what those peripheral issues are. What are the core values that, I just cannot tolerate people who, or I have a difficult time tolerating people who denigrate other people. And that's one of our values, that we will not. And Ali, you said it. Yeah, it was all throughout this conversation. We can be very different in a lot of different ways, but can I be accepting of your viewpoint? Can I learn from your perspective, as opposed to saying I'm right, you're wrong? And so I'm not a kind of person that I'm righter than you are, but Annette, Angie, Diane, Ali, Ed, I respect your viewpoint. You have a life perspective I don't have. I want to learn from each one of you. But when it comes right down to basic life, I mean, what are the core values? And if one of your core values is, if I don't like the way you think, you can firebomb my house. Well, we're at a very core difference right there. I can't project any difference I may have with you to the level of hate to where I would attack you. I can't do that. And so these are just some of the very fundamental topics we'll be addressing Thursday. And I think it is a matter of culture, that when we as leaders develop that kind of a culture within our home, in our company, that let's learn to accept, adapt to other people's perspectives, but know what any dividing issues might be. And again, if you don't like me enough that that you're going to threaten my life, well, that becomes a core value. And but I think we're talking about a very, very small minority who would go to that point. Ed, that's somewhat of a long diatribe on what we'll be discussing Thursday.
It's exciting. I learned so much from doing this show. So if you people want to join the program, there's no registration fee. It's going to be this Thursday, 2 days from now, and starting at 12 noon Eastern time, which is 9 a.m. here in the West Coast. So let me know and I'll send you the link.
And let me just add to that, Ed, if anyone here or anyone within your sphere of influence knows of opportunities to address other audiences in a maybe a keynote address, that could be a topic. But then in some ways, creating a culture or advancing a culture in a company sometimes requires longer time. If I can be of value in helping various companies establish a culture, I'm open to those opportunities, and I welcome dialoguing with you.
I'm glad that you have taken the time and energy to mention that so clearly, and I'm very happy to help promote that. Thank you all for being on Global TV Talk Show. Please come back. This has been a learning experience for me. Yeah.
Take care. Cheers.
I love the hearts. Wow. Little floating hearts. Yeah. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
What a wonderful show. Thank you.
Thank you.